May Jesus be praised and onward with Mary. Have a good and holy day to all of you dear children in the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary, and in the most chaste heart of Saint Joseph. Welcome back to our morning segment, Holy and Coffee. Today is Monday, the 4th of November. We are in the month dedicated to the souls in purgatory, and today in particular the Church celebrates the feast of a great shepherd. Truly, a model for all those who feel the call of the Lord, and then must spend their lives in pastoral service. I am talking about St. Charles Borromeo, who you might think, as many of you will know, became a cardinal at the age of 22 due to nepotism, family ties. He belonged to the Borromeo family. However, he was then sent as Archbishop to Milan. The Council of Trent had just concluded, and he spent all his time, all his pastoral energy to implement the council. Moreover, at that time Milan was struck by the plague. St. Charles Borromeo sold his own furniture and went to live among the afflicted people to help and support them. He did not hold back. Here is St. Charles Borromeo, the bishop, the shepherd who does not hold back. How much is it a reproach today to all those who, like pastors, see what is happening in Roman Catholicism and pretend not to notice or do things in secret? St. Charles Borromeo acted secretly, and Milan never forgot. Because we know that the patron saint of Milan is St. Ambrose, bishop of the 4th century, father and doctor of the Church. But then in 1500, St. Carlo Borromeo died at the age of 47, moreover, completely exhausted from pastoral labors, and he has not been forgotten either, so much so that it is said that the chair is now of St. Ambrose, and it is also dedicated to St. Carlo Borromeo. We invoke him for all the pastors of the Church, so that he may help us to fight and to give our lives. Once and for all, Jesus identified who the shepherd is. It is the one who gives his life for the sheep. Nothing more to say. I say this without any polemic, because God alone knows how much I care for Monsignor 𝐺𝐵𝐼𝐴 𝐷𝐿𝐴. There is currently a beautiful interview circulating on social media, beautiful in its content, with Monsignor 𝐺𝐵𝐼𝐴 𝐷𝐿𝐴, who is 77 years old. However, when faced with the question about the situation of the Church, he sidesteps the issue, and then above all says that he has dedicated himself to a life of prayer. He feels the need to enter and stay in a monastery to pray. Here I say that if the shepherds today become monks, it is over, it is over, it is over, it is over, and the Moors, and today the shepherds take refuge in this form of, let us say, monastic yearning, which certainly there are monks, and there is a need for monks, but there is a need for shepherds, and there is Saint Benedict from Nursia, and there is Saint Charles Borromeo. Understood? I do not know. There is Saint Anthony the Abbot, and there is Saint Philip Neri. There must also be the shepherds who are among the people, who guide the flocks, just as there must be the monks who pray and praise God, who live from the work of God. Opus Dei is not only prayer, it is also the pastoral office, the office of love, as St. Augustine used to call it. And if people do not have prominent figures, strong figures, decisive figures of shepherds, they become disoriented. So today, truly, St. Charles Borromeo helps us to remember this supreme truth. It is a time of profound crisis for the shepherd. There are a lack of shepherds, and the people are lost. So today is Monday. A new week begins. In a moment, we will talk about the souls in purgatory. In these days, I would like to return as much as possible to this theme. But first, let us take stock of the situation after last night's very heated episode, where the dissidents call. But why do they call? Why don't they follow another program? I do not know. I haven't watched television for years, but I have never liked the programs on Italia 1. And so I don't watch it. It's not that I call and say, oh, but here, there, I watch another program. But why do they have to come and watch Radio Domina and then not agree? It is that they cannot manage because it is like Herod with the Baptist who listened to him willingly, because he felt that he was speaking the truth even though he was not in the truth. Here, the phone call last night from Mr. Alessandro from Genoa is particularly emblematic. This dear little brother calls. Last night, you can find the broadcast on the playlist of Radio Nostra to follow the phone calls. It is precisely the last phone call just before the episode, which lasted, rarely happens, half an hour. About, in addition also, for the greeting of Don Enrico and Brother Celestino. And this friend who was from the little remnant who used to come to the meetings. First he makes a whole speech, reconcile yourselves, make peace, love one another. She has her faults, she has made mistakes, speaking for me. And so here they are. Then I explain how things stand. In the end I ask him like the first, to which he did not respond. I ask him, for you, that is the Church of Jesus Christ. Yes, and then I hung up the phone. Sorry, because I do not have time to waste, but really, I do not have time to waste. I can only pray for these who are the worst apostates of the Bergoglians. Because one thing is the Bergoglian who is convinced that Bergoglio is the Pope, and this is what the Holy Spirit, one should ask why, however, suggests another thing. It is people who were in the little remnant and go after the last one who proclaims that that is the Church of Jesus Christ. Ah, yes. How can Christ's Church defy the gospel? Well, last night I asked these dissenters, detractors of mine, and they did not respond. And this is the fact, they did not respond. I would like to reiterate once and for all that the Church of Jesus Christ is infallible, it is holy, and it is also apostolic. How can it go against the apostolic tradition? No one answers my question. So, last night there was this interesting episode, but it was at the end of 3 extraordinary days. The director now shows familiar images. We were in Trento on Friday the 1st, in Verona on Saturday the 2nd, and in Bergamo on Sunday the 3rd, yesterday. They were moments of grace. This that you see is Trento. Soon you will also see Verona. Especially in Verona, there was a response, I would say, surprising. The room was overflowing. We are not making anything up. It is large, about 600 to 700 seats, with people, as you can see in the background, standing. And then yesterday in Bergamo, the surprise, I would say, moving of the response of the faithful of Bergamo. There it is. It does not seem possible. But yesterday, the auditorium was overflowing with people who stood the whole time and outside. That is a moment of grace, moments of grace that show that the small remnant is there. It goes on and proceeds along the path that the Madonna has traced. And so I look forward to the upcoming pastoral moments that will be ready. At the weekend, Friday we're in Ancona. Courage, march faithful, see you at the conference center at 4:30. Next Friday, the 8th of November, is still close to the working days. So patience, I foresee that it will not be an excessive number, given that it is a working day. On Saturday, the 9th of November, we are in Abruzzo, in Pescara, at the Regis Resort on Via Pescarina, in Torri Valignani. In Pescara province, Pescara area, always at 4:30. Especially next Sunday, the 10th of November, we will be in Cassino. As you know, we will meet with the Romans or with those who want from Lazio, from Frusinate, from the surrounding areas. Why not also from Upper Campania at 10:30? Celestino, Don Enrico, and Minutella, we're here for confessions. The afternoon continues all day with this moment of grace. We are waiting for you. Do not miss it. The entries are free. The coaches departing from Rome are equally free, and you can book yours if you wish. There are still about 10 places available. Hurry up, because it will be difficult to move in any other way. The rest will join us by your own means. We thank Don Enrico and Brother Celestino for how they have dedicated themselves in these days, even on the Facebook profile, that we have reactivated, so to speak. You will find the images, the photos, the comments, the reflections of these extraordinary days that we are experiencing in the North, with people responding in a remarkable way, starting, as you can see from this image, from the meeting that took place in Milan on the 6th of October. Yesterday, Don Enrico, just before his departure, as he has already set off to return to Apulia, made a post that we commented on, both in my reflection yesterday afternoon in Bergamo, which you can find in the Radio Domina Nostra playlist, and in the column Il Padre Risponda from last night, a post in which Don Enrico clearly addresses Don Enrico Bernasconi,
invito a leggere questo documento di Don Enrico Bernasconi, con il
with
quale
which he
lui
wants to
vuole mettere
clarify
chiarezza sulla
the
situazione
situation
che
we are
stiamo
currently
vivendo
experiencing.
adesso. Lui
He intends to
intende
clarify how
precisare
things are.
come stanno
He
le
does not
cose, non
intend to
intende fare
create
polemica.
controversy.
Vuole
He only
solo,
wants to, in
ecco,
fact, the
infatti cito, la
title is
precisazione cita la
clarification regarding the
posizione
position of
del
the Marian
sodalizio
Priestly Association.
sacerdotale
The
mariano,
document that Don
documento
Enrico has written
che
is
Don Enrico ha
precious.
scritto
I
è
invite you to read
prezioso,
it
vi invito a
without
leggerlo
prejudice,
senza
without
pregiudizio,
controversy.
senza polemica. Mi
It
sembra
seems to
che
me that
ieri
last
sera
night we
abbiamo
also
approfondito un
clarified a
paio di
couple of
cose, mi è
things.
giunta notizia
First,
e dopo
news
ciò ci
arrived that
stiamo
Dr.
permettendo
𝐤'𝐤𝐵
di
can
dire
afford to say
che
ironically
unicamente
that I
che fa
speak
poco
with
la
the
Madonna,
Madonna,
vabbè, lui può
and well,
offendere
he can
e
offend
anche
and also
dissacrare
desecrate,
e
and that's
ci
fine.
sta. Però fa
However,
offeso
he acts
perché
offended
lui
because
dice
he
che io
says that I
avevo
called him
Blatta,
Blada, but I
ma ho
explained last
spiegato
night
ieri
that I
sera
didn't
che
mention his
intanto non ho
name,
fatto il
so
suo
that's
nome,
already
quindi già
enough.
questo basta. E poi
And then I
ho
clarified to those who
sincerato,
still
quindi
have a
che
bit of
avete ancora un
respect
po'
for
di
this poor
rispetto
Christ
di
who
questo
speaks to you,
povero Cristo
that
che
I
vi
was not
parla,
referring
che
to
io non
him.
mi riferivo a
I was
lui,
referring to
mi
the people
riferivo
of the
alla
small
gente del
remainder who
piccolo resto
immediately
che è andato
followed without
subito dietro
verification the
senza
first one who
verifica
proposed a
al
different
primo
way.
che ha proposto una via diversa. E le blatte fanno
Roaches do
così,
that. Enter a
appena
room,
entri in
flip the
camera accendi la
switch,
luce e le vedi
and they
scappare.
scatter.
Sono
They've
scappato, non
fled.
era
It wasn't
riferito a
about
Dr.
Dr.
Cionci,
𝐤'𝐤𝐵.
prima
He should
lui
check
drive.
first.
Questo per dire. Comunque Don
Anyway, Don
Enrico
Enrico
in
there,
questo
in this
documento
document,
precisa come
clarifies
stanno
how
le
things
cose. Nel
are. In the
frattempo
meantime,
anche gli
the
altri
other
confratelli,
confreres, Father
con Padre
Pavel is
Regina
down
di
in
Sicilia,
Sicily,
che celebra l'Ave
celebrating at the
Maria,
Hail Mary,
sta con i
and is with the
seminaristi, le
seminarians and the
sorine
sisters who
che
have
sono
remained there.
rimaste lì, e
And
poi
then also Father
il
Iohannes, we
padre
have organized the
Ioannes,
meeting
abbiamo
with him in
organizzato pure un
Graz,
incontro a
and I would
Graz,
particularly
che
mention
dirige
Don
appunto
Ramon,
Don
who,
Ramon,
due to the
che per la
strategic
posizione
position he is
strategica in
in
cui
there
si
in
trova lì in
Tuscany,
Toscana,
poor
poveraccio,
thing,
è
is
sempre
always
costretto
forced,
amabilmente
kindly
come
like
San
St.
Carlo
Charles
Borromeo a
Borromeo,
correre
to
da una
run from
parte
one side to
all'altra.
the other.
Anzi, facciamo gli
Indeed,
auguri
let's
proprio
wish
alla
him a
ragione perché
speedy
sta
recovery
poco
because
bene,
he
ma
has
non
not
abbiamo
been
messo le
well.
immagini
But
nonostante
we have
tutto
included the
della
images of his
sua
celebration, despite
celebrazione. Questo
everything.
per dire
This
che
is
il
to say that the
sodalizio è questo,
association is
ha fatto
this. It has
squadra
spontaneously formed a team.
spontaneamente,
It has
si è
united
unito
more
più
than
che
ever in the
mai di
face of the
fronte alle
latest
ultime
aggressions.
aggressioni. Poi io vorrei
To
dire
those who
una volta per tutte, per
disagree,
quelli che non
why
siete
call?
d'accordo, ma che
What's
ci
your
state a
point in
fare a
calling?
chiamare? Ma perché chiamate? Ma qual è il
Why are
motivo
you
per cui
calling?
chiamate? Volete
Convert
convertire la
Dom
gente?
Minatella?
A chi? A che
Who? To
cosa?
what?
Riportarlo
To bring it back to
in
what is
quella che
not a
non è una
church, a
chiesa, un
pigsty?
porcile. Quella non è la
That is
chiesa,
not the
un
church of
un
Christ, it is a
porcile,
pigsty.
capito? E
Understood?
per quello che
For what they
dicono, per
say,
quello che
for what they
fanno,
do,
per quello che
for what they
stanno
are achieving,
realizzando, di
to build a
costruire un
gospel against
Vangelo
Jesus
contro Gesù
Christ.
Cristo, è
It
la
is the
chiesa di
church of
Satana.
Satan. Keep it to
Tenetevelo.
yourselves.
Signor
Mr.
Alessandro di
Alessandro from
Genova, ma
Genoa,
perché ha
but why did you
chiamato? Se
call?
lei è
If
convinto
you are
che quella è la
convinced
chiesa
that
di
that is
Gesù
the church of
Cristo,
Jesus
per quale
Christ, for
motivo
what reason
invita
do you
alla
invite
pacificazione? È
reconciliation?
impossibile qualunque
Any
riappacificazione
reconciliation is
per via del
impossible
fatto
due
che
to the fact that
l'ultimo
the last
sacerdote
priest you
che
have now
avete
decided to
deciso di
follow
seguire dice che
says that
Bergoglio è
Bergoglio
il
is not
Papa,
the
ma quella
Pope,
è la chiesa di Gesù
but that is
Cristo.
the
E
church of
lei è stato
Jesus
anni
Christ.
con noi a
And you have been with
Sapienza,
us
e
for
vediamo
years,
da anni
knowing that
che
we have
quella
been
non è
shouting for
affatto la chiesa
years
di
that
Gesù
that is
Cristo,
not at
come
all the
dicono
church of
le
Jesus Christ.
scritture e le
As the
profezie.
scriptures and
È la
prophecies
chiesa di
say, it is the
Satana,
church of
è la
Satan,
chiesa
it
delle
is the church of
tenebre, non c'è
darkness.
lo
There is no
Spirito
Holy Spirit,
Santo, non è
no
possibilità
communication in
della
sacred
comunicazione
matters is
sacra.
possible.
Questo è. Allora, se non
If
ci
you don't believe
credete, che ci
us,
venite a
why
fare
come
su
to Radio
Bergoglio?
Domina?
Seguitevi
Follow
altri,
me
seguitevi le
further, follow the
catechisi dei vostri
catechesis of
amici,
your
per
friends.
carità di Dio,
For the love of
mica
God, this
noi,
is not a
questa
cult,
non è una
so much
setta.
so
Tant'è
that you
che
call,
chiamate,
and your
io
call
vi
is
viene
not
bloccata la
blocked.
telefonata,
You call,
chiamate,
come to,
venite a
to
mostrare il
show your
vostro
resentment, and
risentimento
I
e
was
io sono
there
stato lì
forced to
costretto ad
listen to
ascoltarvi
you,
e
and
poi
then we
ecco,
move
si va
on.
avanti. Allora, oggi poi programmi
Today,
questa
the
serata più
program for
autentiche
this
perché
week is
oggi
very
dovrò
intense,
far presto
because
perché devo
today
andare in
I
uno
will have to be
studio
quick as I need to go
radiofonico
to a radio
dello studio
studio, the
web
web studio
Radio
Radio
Storytime in
Storytime in the
provincia di
province of
Milano.
Milan.
Sono ospite per
I
una
am a
puntata che
guest for
sarà
an
trasmessa a
episode
voi
that will
a
then
mio
be
piacere nei giorni
broadcast, God
successivi,
willing, in the
se vi fa
following
molto
days,
bene, perché può
if I
darsi ecco,
behave
che
well,
ci
because they might decide
quando
when they find
scoprono.
out.
Beh,
And then,
questa sera
this evening at 9
c'è la
o'clock, there is the
confraternita del
confraternity of the
Santissimo
Holy Rosary,
Rosario,
a very
che si
important
svolgerà
catechesis
alle
at
ore
9 o'clock
21
on
sul
the
canale
YouTube channel of Radio
YouTube
Domina
di Domina
Nostra.
Nostra.
Share,
Condividete,
share, share,
mettete dei
like,
like,
subscribe.
iscrivetevi. Il titolo
The
è
title is
L'ultima
The Last
belva
Beast with the
col
Rosary. We
rosario
win
le
them all.
diciamo
That is,
tutte,
we win
cioè
all the
diciamo tutte le
beasts,
belve, perché
because
è
it is the
l'ultima
last beast
la
of this
belva di
evening.
questa sera. Vi invito ad
Listen to
ascoltarlo
get
per
the
avere un
full
quadro
picture,
completo e poi
then we'll
passiamo alle
discuss princesses
principesse,
and
alle
queens
regine, che
that
finalmente
finally
ci votano,
console
perché il
us.
rosario,
Because the
la regina
rosary,
dei tre
the
rosari,
recitation of the
dedica
3
non solo
rosaries,
ci
dear
permette di
children, not only
vincere
allows us to
contro
win
le
against the
belve che ci
beasts that
assediano,
besiege us.
io direi che
I would say
sotto
that
questo profilo
especially at
quella
this
della
moment, that of
apostasia è
apostasy
peggiore,
is the worst,
ma ci
but it
permette anche
also
di stare in
allows us to be in the
compagnia
company of
delle
the holy
virtù
virtues.
sante. Ecco,
Here that is, the Rosary, as Blessed Alan says, grants us all the virtues necessary to go to heaven. Therefore, it is a satellite navigator, the Rosary, because it gives you direction. I look forward to seeing you this evening at 9 o'clock for this chain. Then tomorrow, I will already anticipate this now, but I mentioned it yesterday evening on Father Replies. There will not be the usual episode of the War Tuesday, but I will be a guest in Castelfranco Veneto of Riccardo Rocchieso, 100 Days from Lion. And we will also broadcast live on our Radio Domina channel on YouTube at around 8:30. There might be a slight delay around 9 o'clock when I arrive. However, we will mainly air my intervention because then I will leave. I will not stay until the end of the program. And then on Wednesday, it will be Don Ramon's turn to support the project. You know that we have changed the international bank account number. We are forced to do so because we are always targeted. You can see the new international bank account number now in the description. Please register it and make the offer. But you can also, perhaps in a simpler way, meet us with the postal current account, which is now in the description. The Madonna accompanies us, and we prepare for these upcoming appointments of Ancona in the Marche, Pescara in Abruzzo, and especially Cassino in Lazio, near Rome, next Sunday, the 10th of November, hoping that the Romans of the small remainder will make this effort that we are putting in to meet the flock. This is very beautiful. Meeting the flock, we say it again at the feast of St. Charles Borromeo. Meeting the flock is what gives strength to us of the association. Marian Priestley. The statute of the association will soon be available. You will be able to download it in PDF format or take a paper copy so that the priests who are interested in joining the association know what the written rules finally are. Well, it seems I have said everything more or less. Now instead, and the most important thing, I left it for last, and it was even slipping my mind, is that we have already made an appointment for Sunday the 8th of December in Milan. On the 8th of December, we will be in Milan. Already from now, registrations are open, which are free of charge, I recommend. There is nothing to pay. However, do you remember that last year in Milan, there was some issue with the influx? Thank God for the faithful. We were more than 1,000, when the hall could hold 400. So since it is a particularly it is unique. The 8th of December is also a Sunday, and it is the feast of the Immaculate Conception, and I want to spend it here. However, it is simply appropriate to know how many we are. It is an economic matter, because if we know in advance how many we are, we can determine which room to take. Do you understand me? It's pointless to book for 1,000 when only 400 can come. But on December 8th, a special day, the opposite could happen. I book for 1,000, yet only 400 show up. So we don't have money to spend. We are in difficulty for everything we have to do as a project of the little remainder. Therefore, I ask for your patience, my dear children. I ask for your patience. You just need to call at the... You must only call the representative of Lombardy, dear Simona, who is indeed available. You must not call precisely, send a text message or on Telegram stating how many you are. There is no need for a name, for example, family, and you say how many people are coming. I have heard, however, one thing. The enemies are upon us, and they are wretches, scoundrels. Therefore I have been told, Father, be careful, celestial voices, because by now I have the voices. Be careful, because 𝐥'𝐿 might call, send, yes, people who book making you believe that you are 4,000. Then give you the 𝐥'𝐞 as 400 come. So let's do this. I think that we can start the registrations, but I reflect and study this risk, and if anything, those of us who are. Let's take a venue for 1,000 people, there in Assago, if all goes well or nearby, and if 300 to 400 come, so be it, because it is a special day. That said, we can finally go and talk about the association should all be present on the 8th of December to allow everyone to, if you need to confess, but only those who haven't in ages, not October or November, we'd never finish otherwise. The group should all attend on December 8th to share this moment. Details on times will follow. Well, let's go to today's episode, which, as you know, is titled, Have You Seen the Window, the Souls of the Deceased and Purgatory? These are days of grace. We are living them. Now, yes, in my opinion, you can finally go to the cemetery after the inexplicable has ended. Because there are people who go to the cemetery but do not even say an Hail Mary. What benefit do the souls of the deceased gain, apart from the fact that most of the souls of the deceased have nothing to do with their burial place? Look, one worries and gets scared about going, let's say, to the cemetery. But in reality, the deceased are much more present in the places where we live. The saints themselves say so. Now let's talk about Maria Sima, who is not at the cemetery where their body is. The corpses might give that impression, but certainly not the souls, and do not call them ghosts, as they are different things. They are the souls of the deceased wounded who, as taught by the tradition of the Church, often atone for their sins in the places where they sinned. Father Pio, for example, saw friars. Once, when he felt cold in the middle of winter, poor Padre Pio went, he was still quite young, he went to seek warmth, heat, to warm himself by the convent's fireplace. So I presumed the refectory, but it was late. There was no one there. However, he arrives and finds 3 friars sitting with their hoods up and their hands inside, who do not say a word. He says, "Praise be to Jesus Christ," and they do not respond. Then again, in short, as Father Pio gets a bit annoyed, "But who are you?" So they take off their hoods and look at him. There are 3 deceased friars. They said their names. "We are here to atone for our sin, because we have been lax regarding the rule of our Father St. Francis in certain matters, and so we atone for our sin, pray for us." Then they disappeared. So many times the souls in purgatory atone for their sins in the places where they lived. In certain ancient houses, indeed. In certain ancient houses this happens. And be careful of those who invoke the deceased. Keep your distance. One thing is if the souls of the faithful departed manifest themselves by the will of God to a certain person, as happened with Natuzza and Padre Pio. Another thing is mediums, who also charge you to put you in contact with your deceased loved ones, and many times they are demons that take advantage of you. Be very careful. If you have done it, you are bound by diabolical preternatural phenomena that then produce effects, if not on you, unfortunately for you, on your children, on your descendants, because unfortunately that is how it goes. But having said all this, now is the time when you can return to the cemetery to bring what? Well, bring a bit of prayer, leave the flowers alone. Yes, do put them there for goodness sake, clean the gravestone, stop, but pray, go there to say the rosaries. I know of faithful women of the little remnant who in these days go to the cemetery, many times, however, not these large ones, of the big cities, but of the monumental villages, which also make one reflect a lot and which paradoxically give a certain peace in the heart. Remind you that life is short and that one must seek the right path. And there they go to recite the rosary among the avenues, right? Through the streets, maybe. Thus they support the souls of purgatory. Now let's move on to today's topic, which has already been introduced, the souls of purgatory. I wanted to read you a passage from the interview with Maria Sima, who needs no introduction, also because I do not have the time today at least, and instead let us go directly to the interview. There is the interviewer and Maria Sima, this Austrian woman, servant of God, who had contact like Natuzza Evolo from Parvati in Calabria with the souls of purgatory. Could you tell me what exactly purgatory is? The answer from Maria Sima: the purgatory is a place. It is a condition that every soul experiences when it still needs to atone for and repair the sins it committed during its life before it can reach Jesus in heaven. Here, this is in full harmony with what the Church and the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches at number 1030, which says this: that of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, those who die in the grace and friendship of God, but are imperfectly purified, that is to say mostly, although they are certain of their eternal salvation, are nonetheless subjected after their death to a purification in order to obtain the necessary holiness to enter into the joy of heaven. I've noticed a certain reluctance in the Church to discuss purgatory, which I believe was a mistake. We need to talk about it. How? Purgatory is a very important reality. It is the ultimate expression of God's mercy. Even Father Pio might have spent time in purgatory. I do not know where I read it, but I read it. Even great saints could have passed through purgatory for omissions, for imperfections, but it is not a punishment. God wants us perfect, wants us saints. St. Catherine of Genoa, on whom I wrote my first doctoral thesis, spoke of the fire that purifies, taking it from the Church Fathers, from rust. Maria Sima adds, little's taught on purgatory now. The ignorance that follows can lead many people to be curious. Well, this is interesting. And as it is alone and devoid of spiritual guidance, one can easily slip into practices. Occult, that is, as I said a little while ago, when a parent, there are many, loses their children, then they go to the medium, the wizard, the witch, the necromancer of the moment who charges a fee. This alone should say everything and evokes the deceased. Many times says true things. The relatives fall for it because then they are really talking to my son, let's say the one who died, let's say in a fire. No, it is the demons who are playing tricks and who know many things. Usually, adds Maria Sima, it is said that purgatory is only a condition. And I have fought a lot in theology on this. In my doctoral thesis, I also took it on a bit, because I had the courage to recover what the receptacula, as they were once called in classical theology. That is to say, the fact that today there is a tendency to insist unilaterally on the fact that purgatory is only a condition. If you also hear hell, they say it is a condition. Be careful. No, it is also a place. Now, it's not necessarily a physical place. You see Santa seeing the shadows, but he does not see them. Then the dead touch him and say, but you are alive. How is it that you are here? Analogous, the thing, that is to say, is a place in an analogous way. Greater similarity of similarity. Perhaps I'm speaking a bit difficult today. Then every now and then it's necessary to make it clear that I understand a bit of theology as well. I am a receptacle. It's certainly not just a condition, because the souls, there is a place. Now it's not the material, physical place as this that I touch like this. It's all material. It's stuff, transitory. Moreover, that consumes itself over time. However, it is certainly also a place. And this Maria Sima and I found this illuminating, because you know that many times mystics have the ability to make theological synthesis. This is what von Balthasar said. I will soon intervene on the fact that last night something very serious was said. As I told Don Enrico this morning at breakfast before he left, I will not allow them to pass us off as the prophetic reality. Stop it. I will eat them when they say that. We are not a prophetic reality. Prophetic, we are not making prophecy regarding canon law. It is easy for this to be attributed to us. We are doing theology, dogmatic theology, the magisterium of the Church, which becomes prophecy in a time of general apostasy. Then I will talk about von Balthasar. What he says about prophecies, he quotes St. Charles not to despise prophecies. The prophecy is incomplete. It is imperfect, but it does not go to waste. Then Maria Sima says that the pointer is only a condition. This is only half true, because it is definitely also a place. It is also a time. So place, condition, time. A time different from ours. I remember when Mother Hope, this thing is stuck with me, the bishop who had helped her had died. I'll tell the bishops, help us and face the consequences. Because he ended up in purgatory, he had been dead for 3 days. She sees him and says, Excellency, I saved myself because I helped you with this project. In purgatory? Yes. How long you been here? You look in pain. I've been in purgatory over 87 years. But Your Excellency, is it you? Yes. You died 3 days back. Yes, for 87 years they have been in purgatory. So there is a time that, however, in the mysterious will of God, is different from ours, and it is suffering. You see that earthly suffering cannot be compared at all. All souls experience this, regardless of level. In purgatory, There are three main
Questo
levels.
la
This is
teologia
mystical
mistica, la
theology,
scienza
the
mistica, la
mystical
Caterinella
experience from
Genova,
Catherine of Genoa,
Annatusa
𝐸'Z𝐚
Maria
𝐸'Z𝐵, Maria
Sima, che
Sima to
farà i
speak of
rilievi
those of our
questi
days.
giorni, ma poi ce ne
But
sono
then there are
tanti
also
altri, San
others.
Nicola da
St. Nicholas of
Tolentino,
Celestine, do you remember?
ricordate, patrono
Patron saint of the
del
souls in
Purgatorio,
purgatory.
parlano di tre livelli
They
del
speak of three
Purgatorio: quello
levels of
alto, quello più
purgatory.
vicino al
The high
paradiso, Natusa
level, which
parlava
is
del grasso
closest to
verde;
paradise.
il livello
𝐸'Z𝐻'A
medio,
spoke
che è
of the
quello
green
più
meadow.
affollato,
The
diciamo,
middle
e il
level,
livello
which
più
is the
basso, che
most
è quello,
crowded, and the
diciamo,
lowest
del
level, which is the
contrappasso,
one
vicino
by
all'inferno,
contrapasso near
dove
hell,
vanno le
where the
anime che si
souls that are
salvano
saved at the
all'ultimo,
last
che
moment
vengono
go, or
salvate dal
those who are saved
sacrificio
by the
del
sacrifice of
familiare
some
che prega
relative who
per
prays
loro.
for them.
Dunque,
So, he
dice ci sono
says,
tre
there are
livelli.
three
Dice
levels.
lei: sono
She
certa di
says, I am
questo
certain of
per due
this for
ragioni.
two
La prima
reasons.
ragione è data
The first reason
dall'esperienza,
is
che
given by
ebbe
the
andando in
experience
una
she had
casa
when going
dove
to a house
succedevano
where
cose
strange
strane
things
durante
happened
la
during the
notte. L'ho
night.
detto all'inizio,
I said it at
non
the
è al
beginning.
cimitero che
It is not
succedono
in the
queste
cemetery
cose, ma
that these
possono
things
succedere invece a
happen,
casa nostra, nei
but they
luoghi
can
dove hanno
happen
vissuto i
instead in our
nostri
homes,
defunti,
in the
i nostri
places where our
familiari defunti.
deceased relatives
Io ero
lived.
stata chiamata dal
I had been called
proprietario
by
che
the
aveva
owner
perso
who
da
had
poco
recently
sua
lost his wife,
casa sua, per vedere se
her to
potevo
see if I
essere
could be of
d'aiuto.
help.
Ti
Can you
immagini? Questa la
imagine?
chiamavano tipo
They called her like a
Ghostbuster.
ghostbuster.
Non de-
Got it.
Non dovetti aspettare
You do not have
molto.
to wait long in the
Nell'ingresso si
entrance.
incominciarono a
Strong and
sentire dei
loud knocks and
colpi
thuds
e
began to be
tonfi
heard.
forti e rumorosi.
I
Allora
make
io
an
faccio un
appeal to the
appello alle
souls in
anime del purgatorio:
purgatory.
ma perché dovete
But
fare
why
così
must you do
agli
this as well,
stupidaggini?
holy peace?
Abbiate più
But be
pazienza,
more
difficile far
patient.
spaventare la
There is no
gente.
need to frighten
C'è
people.
bisogno.
Is there
Ma
a
perché lo
need?
fanno?
But
Non
why
ho
do they
mai
do it?
capito.
I never got
Guardate
it.
le
I
modalità.
think the ways,
Guardate che siamo
look,
inzuppati nel
we are
mistero.
soaked in
Allora io oggi ho
mystery.
una
So
giornata
today I
così,
have
il
a day
Padre
that only the
Eterno lo
Almighty
so,
knows,
però con
but
la
with prayer
preghiera
I
riesco.
understand.
Siamo inzuppati di
We are
mistero.
soaked in mystery. We are
Siamo
immersed
immersi nel
in
mistero. Perché devono
mystery.
far così le anime
Why
del
do the
purgatorio
souls in
a far
purgatory
spaventare?
have to scare?
Alla mia solita domanda:
To my usual
cosa posso
question,
fare per
what
te?
can I
Il
do for you?
rumore si
The
fece
noise
ancora più
became
forte
even louder
quando ecco apparve
when
improvvisamente
suddenly
una
an enormous
bestia
beast appeared,
enorme,
never seen
mai
before,
vista prima,
and
e
immediately
subito dopo un
after,
grande
a great
serpente che
serpent
velocemente
that
la
quickly
divorava.
devoured it.
Penso che Maria Sima
I think
non
Maria,
si spaventava.
didn't it scare her?
La grazia di Dio, perché
God's
evidentemente c'è
grace,
una
for there's
grazia di
clearly
Dio
divine grace.
involto,
I
perché ci
turn
sono
around
gli amici qui
because I have friends
che
here
sono messi di
who are
lato.
set aside.
Dunque, vede una
So you see a
bestia mai
beast never
vista
seen
e
before.
un serpente che la
A
divora. Poi la
snake
scena si
devours it.
risolse.
The
Dovevo
scene faded.
avere
I must
avuto
have been
molta
very
paura, e ti
scared,
credo
and I
io,
believe you,
perché
because
sudai
I sweated from
dall'inizio
the
alla
beginning to the
fine.
end.
Più tardi descrissi quello
Later,
che
I
avevo
described what
risaputo
I had
per non
seen to an
esperta di
expert in
queste
these
situazioni, e fu
situations,
lei ad
and it was she who
identificarmi la
identified the first
bestia.
beast.
Si trattava di un
It was a
ippopotamo,
hippopotamus, a
simbolo della
symbol of
durezza di
hardness of
cuore,
heart
perché loro hanno
because they have
no,
the armor.
questa, la corazza. Ciò non significava
That did
che
not
quella
mean
donna
that the
fosse in
woman was in
purgatorio
purgatory
sotto le spoglie
under
di
the
un
guise of a
ippopotamo come l'era
hippopotamus as
messa.
she saw it.
Era solo un modo perché
It
io
was just a way
capissi
for
meglio le
me to
cose.
understand things
Dopo aver
better.
parlato a lungo con
After
il
speaking at
vedovo,
length with the
piano
widower,
piano emerse che
it
sua
gradually
moglie per
emerged that
circa
his wife
30
had
anni
harbored hatred
aveva
towards another
contato odio
person
ad
for
un'altra
approximately 30
persona,
years,
la
who
quale invece
instead
voleva
wanted to
fare
make
pace.
peace.
Questo suo rifiuto di
This refusal
perdonare
to
fece
forgive
sì che
meant that
lei
she
andasse
descended
nel
into the
più
deepest
profondo
level of
livello del
purgatory from which
purgatorio,
he
dal
could
quale non
not
poteva
yet
ancora
free
liberarla.
her.
Quindi portare
So to
odio,
carry
visto
hatred,
che
since
questo è
this is
molto
very
attuale,
current,
quanta
how
menzogna
much
però esce.
lies,
Quanto
how
odio,
much
ho
hatred.
letto,
Today they
hanno fatto
showed me
vedere
a
un
comment.
commento,
You adore
voi adorate
Minutella as your
Minutella come
God.
vostro
Be
Dio.
careful
Guardate,
of these
attenzione a questa
people.
gente, se
If they are
si
saved by
salva
the
per il gioco
skin of
della
their
cuffia.
teeth.
Io prego perché
I
io sono,
pray
credo,
because I
l'eremite
am, I
più
believe, the
odiato
most
d'Italia,
hated priest in Italy.
presumo.
Presumed.
Almeno a livello
At
geografico è
least
così, dalla
geographically, it is
Sicilia al
like this,
Trentino,
from
dal
Sicily
Piiemonte
to
alla Puglia,
Trentino, from
con
Piedmont to
eccezioni
Apulia,
varie.
with various exceptions.
Attenzione a morire
But be
nell'odio,
careful not to die
perché
in
ci ha fatto del
hatred
male,
towards those who
e
have wronged
rifiutarsi di
us,
far pace
and refusing to
è
make peace
pesante,
is burdensome.
soprattutto
especially when he says that he goes to church, prays, takes communion, the more the Lord punishes you. Question: what other types of refuse could there be, I ask, between the highest and lowest levels of purgatory? You see, in the lowest levels, as I told you, for contrapasso, the lowest level is close to hell. Satan can still attack the souls, which he can no longer do in the higher levels. It is true that we are tested here in hell. I perceive things with a clarity, says Maria Sima. But except for one, I will tell you right away, when she says that even after death there would be a 3 seconds during which God still allows immediately after death, while the soul, 3 seconds, are the moments in which the soul has just finished separating from the body and realizes that it is dead. They are 3 endless seconds, we could say, decisive, like childbirth,
Io ho visto una volta
Because
un
I
video
once saw
su
circulating on
YouTube, ora
YouTube,
molto
now
meno, di
much
un'immagine
less, the
sconvolgente
shocking
di un
image of a
passante che
passerby
riprende
who inadvertently recorded
involontariamente
an
un
accident.
incidente. È successo negli
It
States.
happened in the
Io ho
States.
cercato di
I
verificare
tried to
se fosse un
verify if it was
fake, invece
fake,
no.
but it is
Ho
not.
scoperto che è vero,
I
ma
found it's
stranamente non
true,
si trova
but
più
oddly
questo
the
video.
video's gone
Sono
missing.
rimasto impressionato,
I am
nonostante sono
impressed, even
abituato
though
a
I
questi
am
argomenti,
used to
perché
these
si vede una
topics,
ragazza che
because you
sta
can see a
attraversando
girl
le
who is
strisce
crossing the
pedonali e viene
pedestrian
investita di
crossing
botto
and is
da
suddenly hit
un, da un, ti- da un come si chiama?
by a,
Quella
what
macchina
is that big
grossa,
car called?
il SUV, da un
The
SUV.
SUV from an
La ragazza si
SUV.
vede
The
proprio
girl can
che
really be
casca a
seen
terra,
falling to the ground. And it
e si
can really be
proprio si
seen
vede
that
che
at the
mentre
same
si
moment
sta
in which her head hits the
da questa
ground, a
sbarra a
white light
terra,
comes out from
una
her, and it
luce
is herself.
bianca
It is
esce da
herself.
lei ed è
The
lei
silhouette
stessa.
is that of the
È
corpse.
lei stessa, la sagoma
She
è quella
comes
del
out attracted
cadavere.
because at
Lei
the moment of
esce
death, which
attirata
for many
perché
is
nel
thought of as
momento
a
della
tragic
morte, che
moment,
per
in
molti
reality
è
there is the
pensato
final
come un momento
struggle.
tragico, in realtà
But
è il
then there is a calling
circolazionamento
from
finale, ma poi
God.
c'è un richiamo
Blessed are those
beati
who
quelli
die
che
in the grace
muoiono.
of
Una
God,
canzone
as
di Dio lo
Saint
diceva San
Francis used to
Francesco,
say.
beati quelli che
Blessed
li
are those
trovarrà
who he will
nella tua
find in your most
santissima
holy will.
voluntatica.
The
La
second
morte
death
feconda
will
non
not be the
saprà
usual
tornare.
one.
Cioè, di San Francesco d'Assisi
Saint
è
Francis
stato
of
solo lui a
Assisi,
poter chiamare
who
la
was the only one able to call
morte
death,
sorella,
death,
morte a San
sister, death.
Francesco.
Saint
Insomma,
Francis, in
chiamava
short, calls it
cugina,
cousin,
suocera, ma
mother-in-law,
non chiamarla
but never
sorella la
calls death
morte.
sister. This says
Questo
that
lo
it was
scriveva
Saint
San Francesco
Francis,
e
and
suo
that this
povero
poor
Domino,
little
perché il diavolo
dominator I
paga
will
un
never
prezzo
call
tremendo,
death
mi
sister, I'm
spiace.
sorry, but he
E
calls it
però lui la
sister,
chiama
but
sorella,
says that it is not to be
ma dice
feared
che non è
precisely
quella
for that reason,
proprio per quello, ma
but
è
it
da
is to be
temere il
feared
fatto
the
di
fact
morire
of
per la
dying in
volontà.
mortal
Oggi la
sin.
gente se
Today
ne
people do not
fischia,
care.
la gente vive nel
People live in
peccato come se
sin,
nulla
as if nothing
fosse,
were the
però
matter.
quella si vede che è
However,
un'anima
one
che
can
va
see
per
that soul
andare
which
verso
goes to
Dio,
move
perché
towards
nel
God,
momento in cui
because at the
moriamo
moment we
l'anima è
die, the
attratta
soul is
come
attracted like a
dalla vita,
magnet
dalla
by the Holy
Santissima
Trinity,
Trinità, da Dio
by God the
Padre.
Father.
Che meraviglia!
What a
Chissà
wonder!
che cosa
Who knows what we
sperimenteremo.
will experience?
Ho detto sperimenteremo e
I
non
said we'll experiment,
sperimenterete.
not
Quella volta
you.
è parlato
I used to
di
talk like
quando
that. When you
morirete, quando
die, when
morirò,
you
quando
die.
finirà la
Once
messa.
Mass
Ma
ended,
io non
someone
ci
asked,
credo.
Father, why don't you join in?
Perché vuole fare il
Why
furbo?
does he want to be clever?
E però lei, mentre questa
However,
giovane sta
she,
andando verso
while this
Dio,
young
sono
woman is
frazioni
moving
di
towards
secondo,
God, it is a
si vede
fraction of a
che
second.
volta
You can
un
see that she
istante a
turns for a moment
guardare
to look at
il
her own
proprio
corpse,
cadavere, poi
because she
prende
becomes aware that
consapevolezza
she
che è
is
morta.
dead.
Ecco,
Here we
torniamo a
are,
noi.
back to us.
È vero che noi siamo provati
It is
qui sulla
true that we are
terra
tested here on earth.
e che la prova cessa con la
It is that the
nostra
trial
morte.
ceases with our death.
Tuttavia le anime della terza parte
However,
del
the souls of
purgatorio,
the third
quella più
part of
profonda, quella
purgatory,
vicina
the deepest
all'inferno, quelli
one,
che
the one
muoiono
close to hell,
salvandosi
those
le
who
stelle
die
venisse
saving
volte che
themselves
si
at the last
pentono,
moment,
ce ne
or
sono
because
tante
they
come il buon
repent,
ladrone,
and there are
o
many like the
perché,
good thief, or because,
uno dice, e poi
well, then I
anticipo la domanda,
anticipate
ma
the
allora il buon ladrone
question.
però è andato
Then the
subito in
thief went straight to
paradiso? Sì,
heaven.
la Chiesa insegna
Yes, the church
che ha
teaches
fatto un atto di
that has
contrizione
made an act of
perfetta,
perfect
dovrebbe essere
contrition. This
questo,
should be it,
e
I think.
altri teologi in realtà
Other
dicono è perché
theologians
era
say
con
it's
Gesù, per
because he
quello
was
Gesù gli ha
with
detto sarai
Jesus,
con me in
who
paradiso.
promised him
In paradiso è che
paradise.
sei con
In
me,
paradise, you're
magari
with me.
però doveva anche passare
Some
dal
say he might have
purgatorio,
gone
alcuni
through
dicono. È
purgatory.
più probabile la prima
It is more
ipotesi,
likely
che
the first
Visma, il buon
hypothesis that
ladrone, ha
Sima
fatto
the
un atto
good
di
thief made an
contrizione
act
perfetta.
of perfect
Guardate che
contrition.
la storia
Look,
dei
the
mistici
history of the
racconta di
mystics
persone
tells us
morte
about people
e
who died,
salvate fino
saved at the
all'ultimo
last
istante, sono
moment,
andate
who
direttamente in
went directly to
paradiso perché
heaven
hanno
because
fatto in
they
quel
made a
momento un
perfect
atto di
act of
contrizione perfetta.
contrition at
Qual
that
è l'atto di
moment.
contrizione
What's the
perfetta? La
perfect
Chiesa
act of
insegna
contrition the church teaches?
ti
You are
addolori nella
saddened to
confessione.
have
Io questo
offended
non lo
God.
vedo nelle
This I do
confessioni.
not see in the
Io vedo
confessions.
gente che viene a
I see
piangere nelle
people who come to
confessioni
cry in
per i propri guai,
confessions for their
per
troubles,
i
for their
propri problemi.
problems.
Ma
But
raramente mi è
rarely it
capitato
has
però.
happened,
Ho
though.
trovato
I have
gente che
found people who
piange per
cry
aver
for having
offeso Dio,
offended
pianto altro,
God.
ma
I have found them.
in termini, in
But
numero
in terms of
inferiore.
numbers, I
E
found
io ho
fewer of
trovato
them.
persone che piangono
People who
per aver
cry
offeso
for
Dio.
having
Quello è l'atto
offended
di
God.
contrizione
That is
perfetta.
the
L'atto
act
di
of perfect
contrizione
contrition.
imperfetta
The act of
è la
imperfect
paura
contrition
dell'inferno.
is
Che
the fear of hell, which nonetheless prevents you from going there.
Ecco,
Got it? Here.
i vari livelli del purgatorio sono
The
così
various
differenti
levels of
quanto le nostre
purgatory are as
malattie
different
sulla
as our
terra,
illnesses on
purgatorio
earth.
ci sono, che
There are
possono
so
andare da
many
una semplice
illnesses, which
infiammazione
can
di
range from a
un'unghia
simple
fino
inflammation
ad
of a
alcune
nail
che possono
to
consumare il
some that
corpo
can
intero
consume
come
the
un
entire
fumo. Ecco,
body
il
like
purgatorio
fire.
non è uguale per
Here is the
tutti, ci sono
purgatory,
vari
not
livelli,
the same
veramente
for
questo
everyone.
Dante è stato
There are
un
various
poeta
levels.
divino,
Truly, this saint
e
was the divine
la
poet,
descrizione che lui fa è
and the
veramente
description he
straordinaria.
gives is
Questo fuoco
extraordinary.
esiste solo nei livelli
This
più
fire
bassi del
exists only in the
purgatorio
lowest
e
levels of
non in
purgatory, and
quelli
not in
più
the higher
alti.
ones. Here, for today, I have given you the last question. Can our prayers block Satan's attacks against the souls and the lower levels of purgatory? Response from Maria 𝐸. Yes, look, it is all in the vein of tradition. Yes, she says, especially when we ask directly to Saint Michael the Archangel. How important is the daily invocation of the holy angels? Do you know how much I've always urged devotion to Saint Michael? Let's invoke him, for it is precisely the angel assigned to purgatory. In short, Maria 𝐸 says that there are greater and lesser sufferings, and between the two extremes there is every degree of suffering. I remember reading once about a friar, I do not know if he was Franciscan, it seems to me that he was, who had strictly observed the rule and who died. I do not remember which saint saw him passing from purgatory, but it was even just a few moments. A few moments. And there were a few moments because he was a friar who had lived strictly by the rule. He did not stand out for any particular qualities, but he was committed his whole life, about 50 years of religious life, observing the rule as prescribed. And God rewards this. And in fact, he passed just a few moments from Purgatory or Saint Claude de la Colombière, who died offering himself as a victim to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And however, Saint Margaret Mary Alacoque says, she saw him in Purgatory during the entire time of the funeral mass. Funeral service. That's why I am more present. I am the one who gives the homilies. Your problem. So I do not want any sermons at my funeral mass. They will be quick. If things remain as they are, I will be buried in unfaithful ground. I have no right. I am comforted that I am excommunicated and reduced to a lay state. But Saint Claude of Colombier remained in purgatory the entire time of the Mass, while he purified himself from imperfections. There is one last question for today. We will take it up again in the coming days. The interviewer asks Maria 𝐸. It is an interesting question. Since in purgatory souls suffer, would they desire to return to earth? This question is interesting. Answer. No soul ever wishes to return here to earth. Why? They have a much clearer vision of God than ours, even if they are in purgatory. However, the expectation of God, since they are no longer distracted by the bank account, by taking the children to school, by taking care of illness, by finishing paying the mortgage, by the holidays where we go, but all this transitory, penultimate time and finished, they are there concentrating on God. So they do not want to return to earth because God is our peace, God is our joy, God is our satisfaction, God is our happiness. Man today won't grasp it. Then this false satanic church no longer speaks of God, of Jesus Christ, of the gospel. It proposes something else, but it is God. So when a soul dies, a person dies, they no longer want to return to earth. Won't return to earth. Maria 𝐸 says they never want to return to our darkness here. We stop here today because I have to go and do this radio broadcast to the web radio Storytime, which will then be broadcast not live, but indeed it is not a live broadcast, a recording in the coming days. I remind you that this evening at 9 o'clock there will be catechesis on the Rosary, which allows us to go to heaven, the ultimate beast. With the Rosary we conquer all at 9 o'clock on the YouTube channel of Radio Domina Nostra, where I invite you to subscribe, give likes, share,